All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our July webinar. It's so lovely to see the regulars and the new faces. We super appreciate your time and your attendance and your participation. If there is some background noise, I am going to ask you to please mute yourself, and I'll do my best to jump onto the mute button. Nicole, you and Carl are both co-hosts. If you'd please assist me in that regard. Ladies and gents, you would have noticed that the session is being recorded, and the recording, as always, will be made available on our website afterwards. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Kyle, and he'll hand over to Rosine, that's going to be doing a little bio of Gustaf, our co-host today. And then the moment that you've all been waiting for, we'll hand over to Gustaf after that. Kyle, over to you.
Thanks, Linda. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you are all doing well, and thank you so much for tuning in this morning to our webinar. Just a few marketing announcements before we start. As Linda said, please note that this webinar is being recorded and that it will be published on our YouTube channel as well as our website. So please remember to go and like and subscribe to us. You can also turn on push notifications to be notified the moment that any of our videos go out, so you can immediately go watch it. And then if you haven't already, please do subscribe to our newsletter. This way you can keep in touch with the TVDM consultants team. Then also please make sure to register for Stratafin's upcoming webinar on the 25th of July, where Willie Roos and Zelinda van der Merwe will be discussing ways in which to prepare yourself for those unexpected body corporate expenses in advance. And then please also keep a lookout for the details on the upcoming Let's Get Physical happening in Pretoria. All right, that's all the announcements I have for today. I'll post all the rest of the links in the chat. And then over to Rosine to introduce our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I won't take too much time. I'm just here to introduce Gustaf. Gustaf is a portfolio manager at PropAI. Over the past 6 years, he has gained excuse me.
Continue, Rosine. I'll see if anyone's got some feedback.
Awesome, thanks. Gustaf is a portfolio manager at PropAI. Over the past 6 years, he has gained extensive experience in the property industry, working on a wide range of projects. His work has included assisting in the drafting of national policies, managing properties in the UK, and overseeing residential, commercial, and industrial properties. He holds a master's degree in urban and regional planning, which has provided him with a solid foundation for his career thus far. One of the most rewarding projects that Gustaf was involved in was the 2020 Mangwang Rural Development Plan, where he had the opportunity to contribute to policy development. In his current role at PropAI, Gustaf has had the chance to explore the integration of AI in property management, a field that he finds both challenging and exciting, as I'm sure we all do. Gustaf is particularly interested in how technology can improve our general processes and outcomes. And with that, over to Gustaf.
Thank you for that. I really do appreciate, and thank you for everyone who tuned in today. It's quite the honor to speak about quite a critical aspect of what we do in a sectional title and HOA management, and that is effectively addressing owner queries. As managing agents, our role goes beyond property management. We are at the front line of communication and problem solving for all our communities. Today, I'll share some of my insight and best practices that have assisted me on how we can handle owners' queries in a manner that builds trust and ensures satisfaction and promotes harmonious living. So jumping into the topic for discussion, and that is understanding owner queries. As a property manager, you'll have had those emails from an owner where the first response is, I have a leak, with no sort of information or guidance on where this person is residing, what body corporate, which flat they are from. And the natural response to that would be sending an email. Thank you so-and-so for advising us of this situation. Can you please advise us on what the body corporate is and what the unit number of your flat is? That is all right as a start, but that ultimately leads to more questions. So you at least have some information, which is there is a leak. Building on that, the best approach would be to then ask them for, okay, give me some more information. Is this an ongoing leak? I.e., is this a pipe leak or is this a external leak? Am I sending a roofer? Am I sending a plumber? Get them to send photos. Photos are better than nothing, and videos are better than photos. because you'll get that owner who sends you a photo of close up to the pipe that is leaking. And now this is supposed to give you some sort of indication on what the problem is. So videos, in my experience, have been very effective to this extent. And we all have a cell phone and WhatsApp to obtain that relevant information. So that is generally the approach I take to dealing with maintenance queries, finding out exactly where the problem is, addressing the source, and then trying to address it from there. Moving on, the other sort of queries that we get often is your general finance queries. Where are my statements? Where are my levies? What's going on with the latest budget? Why was there a 20% increase? So from my experience, I make a canned response on an Excel sheet. If somebody wants their levy statement, yes, you can type out a quick email within 2 minutes. But what's faster than that and just saves minutes off your day, which ultimately saves hours, is going onto your Excel, Control-C, Control-V, input the blanks. Thank you, dear Susan, for your inquiry. And the rest of the emails are already drafted. And you go to the races. The same with those more complex queries. If you've already implemented a 20% increase on the budget, which you can be assured that owners are going to reach out to you, why was there a 20% increase? It's best to have a bunch of responses ready, addressing perhaps the security, any other elements that resulted into this massive increase. Planning beforehand, yes, might seem fruitless, ultimately saves hours of your day, gives the best sort of response, because now yourself, the financial manager, everyone sat around a table drafting these responses, making sure that the best accurate information goes out, and it's not on a whim that you are now trying to type, get everything correct, and now you're making a mistake because you were thinking of this one scheme, and all of a sudden, oh shucks, you gave the wrong information. So once again, canned responses, prepping in advance, having your templates ready, really make it simpler for the owners to understand what's going on, easier for you to respond and get the best sort of addressing the owner's query and the best sort of way. So once again, from my experience, about 70% of our queries relate to maintenance, 10% are finances queries, and 20 are legal. That doesn't mean that maintenance takes 70% of my time and finance is only 10. That's just about the ratio of what comes in. Most of our communication ultimately happens through emails and phone calls. Emails are excellent for detailed responses for maintaining records, where phone calls are for rapid assistance, just providing that information over. To further enhance this, there are a bunch of ticketing softwares out there that managing agents use. I don't want to go into detail on what ticketing software you have to use. Rather, my approach is that owners do not appreciate a ticketing software. Ticketing softwares are there for the managing agent to be able to more effectively manage the scheme that they are managing. Do not, when an owner sends you an email, I have a leak, here is the photos, here's where the leak is coming from, I think it's from the flat above, can you assist? Do not now redirect them to a ticketing system and have them re-upload all the information. You already have that. Don't force them to log into an obscure portal. If this is your system and you found success with it, more power to you. But it's been my experience that owners, if they're communicating via email with you, they want to be communicated back via email as well. Personally, we do not use any sort of ticketing softwares. We have been using Excel and a ChatGPT API. So you don't need anything fancy. You just need to track what's going on in your buildings. What I normally do is when I send out that first response over, this is your leak, this is the information I need a photo of where this leak is coming from, when did this leak start. I'll also add at the bottom that this is your 7-digit code. I embed it in the subject and advise them that if you're going to be changing your subject, that's all right, because owners and trustees unfortunately sometimes do that, but they need to keep that number there. And if you advise them beforehand that if you're going to change this number, it's going to reset the process and ultimately cause delays, at least you have one, a safeguard, and two, generally people won't mess with that digit number for you. So there's ways to track it. This is merely the one that we found the most success over. Building onto that, I started my property management career in Bloemfontein, where it was more of a boots to the ground environment. We had fewer schemes, fewer units. So when a geyser burst, we would generally accompany the plumber to site. We'll have our insurance documents ready for them to sign and assist with the entire process. It was a more personalized approach, merely because of the fact that we had significantly less units to manage. Moving to Cape Town, that ultimately changed from a personalized environment to a more corporate. Now we're managing 1,000 units, and with London, we were managing over 2,000 units. So it's possible to keep track of everything that happens in that scheme, and things you notice that queries start becoming a number. It's just a number as somebody emails you. You don't have a personal relationship with them. So what I'm trying to get at is file your emails in an organized manner. So many people just believe in a zero inbox. And yes, Gmail and Outlook have wonderful functionalities of being able to search. But taking the 5 seconds that you hopefully saved from copy pasting a canned response, you can then take in filing your emails in a proper manner. This just makes it a lot simpler in the future for when you get a Karen phoning you telling that you didn't respond to my query within end of business day. But meantime, you're fairly sure you did, but this was 3 weeks ago. How are you going to find this? So the method that we use is simply it's the body corporate's name or HOA's name. From there on, it is the unit number, and then we have maintenance, finances, and general. And while you're on the phone with this owner on the line, it's a simple matter of 3 clicks. You're in that building. You can see all the communication and that went out to her, and you just stop that miscommunication that happened with them. And when you get a call from a Karen that's very disruptive or somebody that's been handed over, as a property manager, it sometimes feels like we going 10 rounds with Mike Tyson in the ring, and it's just dodging and weaving. You've got the ops manager telling you need to respond faster. You've got trustees demanding results, believing that you're the only one, that you're only managing their building, you're doing nothing else with your time. It can get quite emotional, and you either want to respond their energy that they gave to you or kill them with kindness. My advice with that is to keep professional, keep it neutral. Ultimately, we're here to deliver a service. And if you're going to start killing them with kindness, people are going to pick up on it. And it's not about winning. It's about resolving that query as fast as possible and moving on. Eventually, the universe will correct itself. So building on all of this, I want to move on to best practices. So now you've got the information from this owner that had a leak. You know it's a pipe leak. You know you need to send out a plumber. What are you saying to him then? If you know your plumber can generally deal with this within the next 2 days, and you got the owner's detail and permission to forward it onto the plumber, advise them that this matter will take 3 days, even though you are expecting it to be resolved within 2 days. The reason I say this is if you give yourself 3 days and it gets resolved within 2 days, all of a sudden you look like a rock star because you got it in time, and it's all about perspective. While the flip side is true, when forbid you said it's going to happen in 1 day, but now it took 2 days for the plumber to get there due to whatever external reasons there might be, then the result is now they are angry at you because you did resolve them at the time previously. It's about setting that expectations, under promise and over deliver. You still had the matter resolved within 2 days, but setting the expectations beforehand is vital for being able to address owner queries, having owners trusting you, and just having a better day overall. The reality is also that sometimes you do say, okay, I'm going to get back to you within 2 days with this simple financial query. You need to get them their latest levy statement or a query on the budget. All of a sudden, something happens, you get a call from the fire brigade, and your building's on fire, and you're rushing off to deal with that, all hands on deck. And now you're trying to resolve that, but you've completely forgot to respond to your initial query. it's what I've seen is that portfolio managers would generally try to cover themselves. Oh, they're still waiting for so-and-so, this happened, and try to give a bunch of excuses. That could work, but you're ultimately going to get a sort of reputation. And when that bubble comes out that, oh no, you were stalling for time, you have at that point completely lost all trust, and people do not longer want to work with you. It has been my experience that if you be upfront, honest, hi, ma'am, I've been extremely busy. I apologize. I will get this back to you before lunchtime. Then it's generally a better response and owners are understanding, but then the burden is on you to now prioritize this task that you have set for them. If you're going to set expectations one, fail to meet expectations the first time, and then fail to meet it a second time, you would lose complete trust. So that second expectation that you set, for whatever reason, should be almost more important than the ongoing fire building. Your PA and rest of your staff can be dealing on that while you commit to your second expectations. You will ultimately have owners that will not be satisfied with your honest excuse. Trustees, this is unacceptable, etc. But more often than not, showing that you are human, being transparent on what has happened and why you've been unable to address this query, you were ill for whatever reason. 90% of the time, out of my experiences, people understand, and that gives a better experience. And then when you get back, yeah. So moving on from best practices to handling difficult scenarios and challenges is, I do not think portfolio managers as a whole are educated enough on the act that they believe in, nor are owners that actually buy into the Sectional Title Act. Nobody reads the act itself. It is a 50-page document. If you read 10 pages a night, it will take you about half an hour, and you'll be done with it by the end of the week. Yes, it is an extremely boring piece of legislation, but you'll be better off for it at the end, especially if you're an owner, and definitely when you are a property manager. There are, however, other tools that you can use to educate yourself. The one that I've seen the most success with is the Paddocks course. But there are numerous other courses out there for you to use, such as the one from Stratafin. I know NAMA has one. Trafalgar has a course. I know Punov has a Meeting Pal. And of course, the We Connect You team is always eager to educate people on their software, the act itself, and all the prescribed management rules. So take the time, educate yourself. This will be a boon for the rest of your life, especially if this is your career and if you're a property owner, learn. And just a slight caveat on that is, I think we are spoiled with the Sectional Title Act. Yes, it's not the best or perfect document that there is, but having worked in with UK property laws, it really is an amazing piece of legislation. Just want to move on to my next piece here. Training and resources. I do not think that property ops managers and property owners invest enough into their teams. It's easy to say that coming from a property owner myself, but as an owner of a company, you have a set expectation. This property is your livelihood. It's your reputation. It is everything that you've worked for so far. You cannot expect that employees that just see property management as a job to have the same sort of resilience and dedication than what you have. So my advice for that to all managing agent owners is help your team, make their life as easy as possible, set up those canned responses, help them to address with general owner queries, and just it ultimately benefits the owner as well as benefit your team and hopefully keeps turnover lower. I have two examples that I want to end with on how transparency and showing what you are doing has been very successful compared to trying to do things behind closed doors. So we had a scenario with where we had a building flooded. Unfortunately, this building had a flooding over the weekend. So we weren't there to address it immediately because they didn't have out of service. ultimately, Monday morning, we started to address this, and immediately we got the prepared, and we worked attending to everything around, just getting the building back in operations, ensuring the electricity was on. Our major fault in all of that was we didn't mass communicate what was going on, telling them that unfortunately you didn't sign up for this out of service. So nobody was here to assist you. This wasn't our fault. This was just what the building was assigned up for. We didn't know. But because that communication didn't go out, owners were immediately disruptive because now they've been without water and electricity for 2 days. Furthermore, we then started the insurance procedure because it was affecting such a large portion of the building, of the individual flats. We wanted to assist with it, but once again, we failed to communicate effectively that this is what it's insured. No, your TV isn't insured. This is what your excess is going to be depending on everything that you claim for. And ultimately made us receive the same sort of communication over and over again. Is this going to be covered? Who's getting the quotes? What's going on? When's the claim going to be submitted? If you are transparent from the get-go, it just reduces unnecessary amount of queries coming in. So from my experience is that the portfolio managers with the most incoming calls and most redundant emails are the same portfolio managers not utilize mass communication, sending out just general blurbs of what has happened at your scheme. If there's a broken gate, take time. Instead of when you're responding to that one person that reported the gate, immediately make a posting about it. Send an email. Yes, we are aware of the gate, and even take it a step further. If you have a building manager on site, let him print out a notice and put it on the gate. Yes, we are aware the gate is out of order. We have an engineer on its way. If you don't get a trustee there, get him a printer. It will be a massive investment for the scheme's transparency as a whole. Remember, if owners can't see what you're doing, they will naturally assume that you aren't doing anything. So being transparent, communicating often is vital. This does not mean that you need to spam your owners 100 times. Thank you, your call is still being processed. They don't want to know it's still being processed. They want to know what have you done. So give feedback on this. We have contacted an engineer and we're waiting for a quote from so-and-so. We'll get back to you ASAP or provide an update within the next 48 hours. Setting expectations, giving feedback, all of that being on the front foot instead of waiting for all these incoming emails will ultimately have the owners trust you more and make your own life a lot easier and cut back on all those unnecessary emails that you've been experiencing. So on the good scenario, we had a building where there was an electrical surge and it left quite the Looney Tune size hole where the internal substation was. Ultimately, that happened at least in the week. So we're quick on it. The fire brigade came out, ensured that this wasn't a fire risk anymore. And what we did was we used all those records, any sort of report we had, we immediately attached it and sent it out to everyone. People felt more involved. They felt more engaged. They felt like we had their best interest at heart. We were still doing the same thing at both schemes, but this time we were a lot more transparent on what we were doing. On the second scenario, I actually had owners phoning me, thanking me for all our hard work that we've been doing compared to the first scenario where it wasn't that friendly phone calls that we were getting. So just to summarize, it's transparency, getting as much information as possible. Remember that properties is our lives, but for a property owner, not a trustee, this is just a blip. They have a leak. They just want the leak resolved. They don't want all the fluff. They just want to get on with their lives. Every one of us have our own lives, and property is not a massive aspect for theirs. So reduce the amount of communication that owners need to send to you by sending out mass communication out first, and being proactive with things will ultimately have a wonderful outcome on how owners perceive you, as well as the amount of trust they have in your company at the end. So that's about everything I've prepared and everything I think that relates to owner queries, but feel free to ask anything that you think I might have missed or need, or what you think could add.
Sure, fantastic. Thank you so much, Gustaf. I've made a couple of notes as we've gone along, and I see there have been a couple of questions that are raised. So feel free to pop your questions or comments into the chat, and we can go to a live chat now as well. So, let's start from your most recent positive experience where, you had a word of thanks that was given to you. And, something that I miss on a daily basis from my time as being a managing agent is seeing a project through. So as a consultant, we are very often drawn in, at the height of a problem. We give some advice, we give a possible solution, and then our clients go off and do it themselves. And very rarely do they come back and tell us what the outcome was. Whereas with a portfolio manager, you are there every single step of the way. And because you are invested in what is going on in the scheme or what is going on with an owner, it's always, great to be acknowledged from that perspective as well. Our colleague Pearl put out a lovely video a couple of months ago, maybe even a year ago now, where she, noted that when there is a success in your scheme as a trustee or an owner, that quick thank you, that quick email, that quick WhatsApp, that quick telephone call does go a very long way to assisting, build better relationships. The communication as well. So in my capacity as an owner, if I get a response to my email that says your email has been acknowledged and will take 24 hours, 48 hours, as sometimes irritating as that reply is, like, okay, cool, like that's nice that you've sent me this email. What am I supposed to do with it? At the same time, it does give me the sense of like, cool, okay, my email is there. It will be attended to. I don't have to worry about my email going into, this, space or whatever it might be. Even in my personal capacity dealing with other contractors, if I don't get a response back, even if it's a thank you for your email, I acknowledge your email, I'll get back to you, I start getting quite aggravated. And the next time I email the person, it is either I don't want to do business with you anymore, I'm going somewhere else, or I'll sort it out myself, or what's going on? Am I not important to you? But meantime, the poor contractor on the other side is working on it, but I don't know. So there needs to be a sweet spot between, sending correspondence, getting the correspondence acknowledged, and maybe updates. I've also found that in consulting, when I do engage more with the client, especially new clients that don't know me, a little bit more before they're going to consult with me, by the time that we consult, we've actually built a nice, not maybe relationship, but we've built it. Yes. So we sort of understand where we're coming from, and they understand, that I am on their mat or whatever it might be. So that type of communication, I think, is vital. My scheme has currently their managing agent has gone through a new system, a ticketing system. And, a lot of people raise the questions of, is the ticket just going to get closed without it being dealt with? Or we get a notification that says your query is now with so-and-so, and then with so-and-so, and then with so-and-so. I've been told since I started working by my employers, our clients, the owners, the trustees, they don't care who in your business is dealing with the query. They just want to know that the query is dealt with. And very often the portfolio manager is that port of call. We don't want to know that, Susan in the accounts department must report to Sally in the accounts department that James must sign off on. That's your internal process. It's got nothing to do with us. So, that must also be kept in mind. I'd be very interested in hearing from everybody, from owners, what is their concerns that they have with regards to either their self-managed schemes or their managed schemes or administered schemes about correspondence. Do you feel that your emails are being attended to? Do you feel that your managing agent or your trustees are corresponding with you too much, too little? I always think it's better to have more correspondence than less. And on that note, we've got a couple of comments here that I'll touch on first. So the first one is from Sandy. She says, should there not be a funnel of what is passed to the managing agent and what trustees must handle themselves? We all live in a fast-paced world and need to see how we can work smarter. The managing agent has other complexes to handle too. Gustaf, do you want to comment on that?
My experience, trustees aren't as involved, and when you do have trustees that are very involved, those are wonderful trustees, but trustees are there to make the big decisions. What are we doing at the scheme? They are generally not involved with the day-to-day simple operations. So my experience, everything should come to the property manager. That's why we are being paid a salary. And then there on, it's our responsibility. This is the trustees' item to address, or this is something that I can address in the meantime myself. So yeah, we're being paid for this.
Yeah, I agree with you. We very often get matters where owners complain that they don't get the trustee's contact details. But as a trustee myself, unless I'm being paid for it, I don't want the owners to correspond with me. I'm just one trustee, and we want the advice and guidance of our managing agent, and we want proper record keeping as well. I often get emailed because the portfolio manager isn't responding quick enough. Just because I'm more available on my emails or I don't manage schemes doesn't mean that I'm the right person to contact. So it would be interesting to hear people's view with regards to that. There is a comment or a question from Aaron on the group. He says, there appears to be too many managing agents who are not familiar with the act, or if they are, they simply ignore the legality of the document and will not advise trustees when illegal decisions or resolutions are made. I think there's probably a fine line between what the portfolio manager should advise on and what external advice should be sought on. Gustaf, do you have any comments there?
From my side, once again, managing agents are being paid. Trustees are generally free volunteers, and although they feel important and they are important to the operations of the scheme, it is the burden of responsibility is on the managing agent, making sure that everything runs smoothly and within the confines of the law. And if the managing agent doesn't know, we're not legal experts, then I would pick up the phone and phone Zelinda. Hi, I've got a weird query. What's happening here? Are the trustees doing the right thing? Can you please give us some guidance? If it's a quick resolution, fantastic. Or, okay, no, because this is really complex. Let's set up a consulting. So we're not legal experts, but it's our responsibility to make sure that our trustees don't do anything illegal.
Thank you for the little punt there of us as well. I would like to say that the majority of telephone calls and WhatsApps and emails I get from portfolio managers is, I'm having a little bit of a moment. Can you please confirm that this is the situation? And having been a managing agent myself, so often I would give advice and guidance only for the trustees to say, you're just a managing agent, you're a glorified minute taker, whatever, you don't know. And they go pay attorneys and advocates for their opinions, even though I had the law degree. So, you're not going to get an ideal situation, but portfolio managers should not be afraid to answer owner and trustee queries. But let's get more to the topic, ladies and gents. We can open up the floor for live questions, comments. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Some owners, trustees. I know we've got quite a few portfolio managers online. You're welcome to unmute yourself, raise your hand. Puna, you've got your hand raised. Thank you. Puna, you on mute.
Apologies for that. Yes, I've got my screen up on a different place. Yes, so thank you for that. I think to your point, Linda, I think one of the important things is that if you promise somebody that you will reply in X amount of time, it's important for you to have a pending system or to use some diary system where you then actually just go back and revert back to them, even if it's just to confirm that you're still working with them or on the problem. As a trustee owner, myself, that's what I expect. I expect that if there was a promise made to me, that we then would follow up on it, and I would be kept in the loop regarding that.
If I can add to that, so the best thing that I, as a managing agent, have done is I would send myself emails. I have a very good relationship with past me and future me. I would, hi Gustaf, hope you're doing well. Kick ass today. Just a little pick me up. Remember to give feedback to the trustees and follow up on outstanding quotations. Just getting that first thing in the mornings. Yes, you can fill your diary up with a bunch of useless junk, but I just love seeing a bunch of emails myself on what my to-do list should be, and it just gives me some idea on how my day is going to go.
So I'm not the only crazy person talking to myself. That's wonderful, because I do exactly the same. And one of my managing agent colleagues the other day told me that apparently you can send a WhatsApp to yourself as well. So you pin your own telephone number on WhatsApp. Shirley's shaking her head. Shirley, how did you know this? And I didn't know this. Apparently you WhatsApp yourself as well. So that's fantastic.
I'll WhatsApp myself my shopping list.
Your shopping list. Well, I WhatsApp myself, please don't forget to do these minutes, or please don't forget to send so-and-so that correspondence. We're all human. We need reminders as well. Any other comments or questions? Come on, guys, don't be shy.
So Linda,
Yes, Aubrey.
I have a question on dealing. As you know, we deal a lot with a whole complex where 50% of owners have illegal additions and alterations. And it seems like the communication between the managing agent and the owners about things like that, that's going to cost them money and change their life, is very ineffective. So we might say, listen, we need to, in 2 weeks' time, let us know if you have approved building plans for your unit. Nothing. You just, it's totally ignored. Whenever there's cost involved in anything to get the complex compliant, nothing. How do we deal with that, except trying to threaten them? That's also not very effective.
Gustaf, your comments first. I've got a couple of threats as examples that we can use, but yeah.
What I try to do in situations like that is due to leaseholders' humanity. Like something happened, and now there's repercussions to what ignorance they had when building to these extensions. So before that, I would, if they had to break things down, I'll have a list of contractors available that they could contact, make it as simple as possible for them to do whatever they need to do, and tell them they should reach out to you if they need extension of time, so they can, if they need an extra month or two to gather necessary funds to break whatever is down, or if they can make a special application, give them as much information as possible, ultimately end off with your refusal to cooperate may ultimately lead to fines being implemented and legal costs being issued to you. But it's always that Big Mac approach of you give something nice, you give the juice of whatever your message is. This will be bad if you don't respond to it, and try to end off with something good again at the end. We're all human. This is going to cost them money, but just being, it's a difficult one, that though.
Well, Rosine and I were at a meeting yesterday evening, the one that I mentioned at the beginning, where the moment we barely said welcome, and the owners immediately started tackling the trustees and ourselves with regards to, they didn't get enough information, they weren't corresponded with. At the last meeting, X, Y, and Z was said. And there was one gentleman particularly that kept on saying, no one's engaged with me, no one's contacted me. And I turned to Rosine, and lucky he had thought ahead, and he had his laptop and he had an internet connection and he had his emails open. And he said to me, Z, I've actually emailed this gentleman, here's his contact information. And I said to the gentleman, you said you haven't gotten any correspondence. Okay, but this is the steps that we took. This was the instructions we got. And I said, you were actually sent a letter on this date, this date, this date. And he's like, no, I didn't receive it. I didn't receive it. I didn't receive it. And then during the course of the meeting, he started waving around a hard copy paper, and I noticed our letterhead on it. And I said to him, so what are you waving around there? And he's like, the letter dated, whatever. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. You said you didn't get correspondence from us, but you literally have printed out a letter. And he just refused to communicate because he wasn't in agreement, and that's not right. We as the managing agents or the trustees, we don't know what we don't know, is something that an ex-employer always used to tell me. And it's actually such good advice, is that we're reaching out to you for information. We're reaching out to you to engage with us as trustees and managing agents. And if you're not going to respond, of course, we can't get this sorted out. If you're not going to allow, in Aubrey's case, access to make sure that you haven't built in contravention of the act, if you're not going to give us approved building plans, then we aren't able to ensure that you've complied. And if we aren't able to ensure that you've complied, we are going to raise fines against you or take legal action, whatever it might be. I think that the transparency and communication is, vital. And the topic of today's conversation is, how do we communicate? What type of things do we communicate? Who do we communicate with? And we understand that it's people's homes and their investments, and that has to be taken into account. Like Gustaf said, when you engage with somebody, you're not going to go at them with the same energy that they're coming at you. You're going to do it professionally and politely and all of those fun things. So it's very important to understand who you're engaging with and what topic of conversation you're engaging with. Ladies and gents, any other comments or questions? I see
I've
it posted on the chat. Yes, Gustaf.
I've got one thing that like the company's name is PropAI for a reason. I believe artificial intelligence is the next wave, such as the internet disrupted the world. AI is coming and it's disrupting the world again. If you want to believe it or not, that is up to you. But it's true that's out there, that's absolutely free for everyone, is ChatGPT, and it is a miracle software for everyone. Please go and use it. If you're an owner, if you're a trustee, if you're a managing agent, it should be open next to you on your desktop, on your phone daily. What's even more fantastic about it, you can pre-prompt it. So you can, there's a functionality that's very simple to set up that I won't go into detail, but you can tell him, I am a managing agent in South Africa with the Sectional Title Act, and then you name the act and it will go and fetch the entire act and store it in its memory. You can tell him how it needs to respond. So if you're a trustee, tell him that you're a trustee. This is the guidelines that you're governed with. If you have your HOA management rules, copy paste that entire thing, put it in its management, in its promptness, and then start chatting to it like it's a human, because it responds back as if it's a human. Ask it questions. Can I do this? Do not take it at face value. The bot can and will lie. It's not legal advice, but for any general queries and for managing agents responding to a financial query, if you prompt it enough, it's a very amazing piece of software to reduce the amount of work that you have to do. You still need to check it. You still need the relevant knowledge. You can't just blindly trust it, but it just speeds up processes. For any trustee, owner, or managing agent, it should be a daily tool that you are using. So just my caveat on AI.
Just to have images of the robots taking over the planet, but there's a lot of people in our industry that I think are still quite shell shocked when it comes to how technology can aid us in what we do. And very often we get told, well, if I'm going to auto generate a response or something like that, what do I need you for and what do I need to pay you for? And I think what's vital is that managing agents, trustees actually use the products that are out there, the software that is out there to make life easier, to make life more transparent, help communication, open up those channels, let things get dealt with a lot quicker than one would if there were only people dealing with it, because we can only do so much as people. There's only so many hours in the day. We had a couple of comments about the artificial intelligence. It's artificial intelligence, sorry. There was somebody that made a comment about honesty with owners is vital. If I made a mistake or forgot something, own it. Most certainly. Definitely very, very true. Ladies and gents, we've got another couple of minutes left. Anything else that anyone would like to raise? Any comments or questions verbally that we can engage with?
I've got a question. Morning.
Yes, go for it. Hi there.
I've had property in the past, which I sold. At that point in time, I got a very bad rep for trustees because they weren't very accommodating to owners and very respectful and things like that. So I already had a bad image of trustees then. But I recently bought property again, and I'm in an estate now, estate complex. And I just want to find out, between the trustees and the managing agent, who needs to handle a situation, because between the trustees and the managing agent, they're not on the same page with regards to how could you call it, rogue tenants that just believe that they can follow their own rules, make their own rules, break the rules as they please, intimidate people, threaten people in the complex. So they've actually threatened the managing agents as well. Just complete, it's like running a circus in the estate at the moment. And the trustees have decided not to, really go ahead with any, there's going to be no consequences, even though 3 rules have been broken already. And I don't feel that it's right that you just leave the matter, because they give everyone else a sense of they can just do what they want. We don't want to end up in a complex where people can just, do what they want. I think this sets a precedent for other tenants as well. I'm not sure who, which is the right, is this the managing agent that needs to make the decision, or is it up to the trustees?
Gustaf, over to you.
So ultimately, the managing agent follows the direction of the trustees. There are times that I do not agree with immediately implementing a fine. If the rules prescribe that we can, and the trustees say that we must, we do that. Even though my approach is generally with the first warning. And on the flip side again, if trustees are too relaxed, it is now the third warning that you have given, but you should have implemented fines already and escalated the matter. We ultimately follow the direction of the trustees. So even though we are their tools, the decision comes from them on how to implement it. And as them being the client, we can't overrule them until such a case where the trustees are being addressed by the rest of the scheme.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So sorry, Aubrey, over to you.
Okay, sorry, yeah. If there's a moment, just a general question, and I see a lot of the Let's Get Physical people on the call. Perhaps just from Gustaf's experience in England, and what is the best way to educate owners? We've tried many things, and sometimes I'm excited about it, and some days I just cannot believe that after everything, the basic knowledge and understanding is purely non-existing. And that sometimes also includes some of the managing agents that we deal with. What is your experience? Are there better ways? What is the situation better in England than over here? Just general comments, please.
So everything England has to offer, South Africa is surprisingly better in almost every regard. But how you educate your owners, if it's in the UK or in this side of the world, I've noticed that people are a lot more eager to learn when it's something affecting them immediately. So when we're doing a budget meeting, we before I would send out my budget, I would send out some legislation, some examples of why it's very important to keep up with inflation. Otherwise, this will have dramatic effects for you in the future. This is why a maintenance plan is important. When there was a big insurance claim, this is how insurance policies are being are situated. This is what the owner's responsibility is. This is what the managing agent's responsibility is. So I try to time it. Once I see that something is going to affect the scheme as a whole, then I try to add a bit of information. Because if the budget is 6 months away and you start trying to educate owners on budget, they're not as receptive to the knowledge that you are trying to push to them. It's better to just that timing is the best thing that you can do.
Thank you very much.
Sandy, you've got your hand raised.
Hi, good morning. Just a question from our side. Between trustees, managing agent, and council, you've seen that a lot of councils actually charging interims over or under, and then you're trying to get their balancing act right to actually get it sorted out. I've had a query from from a complex where they would charge something like 44% on one of the utilities. So how do and owners are jumping up and down and saying, but council has said these are the increases. How do we handle something like that and prevent that from happening? Thanks.
If I can just understand the question, so there was a financial error, or council said that the bill was 44% higher than what was budgeted for. Is that correct?
I'm not close to the detail, but basically council's increase is something like I think it's 9% on sewage. And the managing agents actually gone and imposed an increase of 44%. So I've asked the question, is it that council is under recovering enough to rectify it, or is it something that the managing agent just imposed? But people are looking at the rates, the increased rates that are put forward by council, and then they get this notification of the increases. So how does one determine if it's something that was under recovered? I'm sure a managing agent would have to send a letter out, or if it's something they putting under the carpet to try and cover for something else.
So it's a lot of little, there's not a lot of information to go off here, so I'm going to speak very generally about that. The only reason, well, one, they can't hide if they were under recovering. You have your budget versus actual. So you would let it's 2024 now. You'll have your 2024 budgeting, what you have, and then you would show in 2023 we budgeted this, and this was the actual cost for that year. So let's say you budgeted 100,000 Rand, but in reality, it's 150,000 Rand that you use. That money, of course, came from somewhere else, service charges, or worst case scenario, a reserve fund if the trustees signed it off. So there's no way that they can actually hide it. And then adding onto that, there was now a 8 or 9% increase coming from council. So the managing agent now has to fix the shortfall that happened last year, plan ahead, maybe put a bit of a buffer. I'd rather overprotect myself than underprotect myself, and budget a bit more in water. If I already missed it once, I'd rather do a bit of savings that go back into the reserve fund. And now you also have to take into account that 9%. So I can't address everything, but I think, yeah, it seems like what could have happened, but without more info, I just don't know.
Cool.
No problem. Thank you. I'll get them to investigate. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy's always got some good questions. She, for those of you that don't know, she started a WhatsApp group in her local area, and gets answers for people if she doesn't know the answers, which is really, really great. And I think that's also a form of technology. Gustaf, is your WhatsApp groups and engaging with the owners over WhatsApp. I mean, I'm not fond of WhatsApp groups at all unless it's for social engagements. But if you're going to have a WhatsApp group in a community, perhaps it would be a good idea to identify rules about what it can be used for. You know, we know the gate is broken, the contractor is on the way. Please make sure you move your cars. We're going to be having scaffolding up, whatever it might be. I think people are probably quicker on their WhatsApps than they are on their email generally. So that is something to look at and an option to look at. But I'm sure a lot of these other platforms also have those types of services without necessarily using WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, just because it's something that everyone in South Africa uses. If you have a cell phone, you probably have WhatsApp. My experience from WhatsApp community groups is as follows, and that is the managing agent and the trustees are the only people that can actually send out communication. Because as soon as you give a voice to your community, remember, a mob has 10 points a lower IQ than the dumbest person in that mob. It's just a statistical fact. And if you take your community together, they will act irrationally as soon as one person starts stoking the fire. And before you know it, you've got pitchforks at your door. So it's WhatsApp communications like that should be a one-way ticket with a clear channel of communication, how an owner can communicate directly back to you. You also do not want to share any of your owner's contact details. If my details were shared with my neighbor next door and he just starts threatening me, it'd be the quickest way that I address the PropAI Act with the managing agent as well as the trustees. My privacy should be protected.
So I'm glad that you raised that topic, and maybe Puna can add some comment here as well. How do you find that these AI platforms agree with or contravene PropAI?
We have a system where we do not automatically put everything into ChatGPT. We have a local AI bot scrubber. So every time it sees, let's say I got an email from Susan. So it will get the Susan's name. It will take the name out, replace it with an X value, then feed it through GPT or whatever our AI model is, get our communication that we're trying to do for smoother and faster communication, go back to our local server, and then refit the X value to know it's Susan. That way I can guarantee and I can show everyone who is a member at our communities that no, your details is not at all, not even your name is being shared with the AI that will one day enslave us. It is just used for faster communication and assisting with rapid responses.
Fantastic.
So that's what we do.
Puna, any comment from you?
I think from our side, what is important is back to what Gustaf was just saying, is I think it's important to have your own AI box or bot that you can train up and control that information is not sent out into a chat GPT environment. Also, it is important to have an opt-in or opt-out principle applicable. But I think the future will be for web for WhatsApp messages to communicate with you. I don't know if you're familiar with when you fly with Safe Air. You can do your bookings, online check-in, and you can share your location and your flight status with somebody. It's the same principle. It's a secluded box or a private box that you can then ensure that you don't breach any information. Remember, POP is about what you do with the information, so we don't then share the information in the public space.
I think a lot of people are, I think, very cautious about that. I find that, you know, everything has to be recorded in writing somewhere or another. So even if, and poor Carl has to deal with it a lot, and Wendy will soon as well, when somebody calls and gives them the whole life story, they very sheepishly say, thank you so much, please put it in an email. So, you know, if we could avoid that double jeopardy, unfortunately, for an owner to deal with as well, that would be great for a client to deal with. Ladies and gents, we've reached 11 o'clock. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today. You are more than welcome to jump off if you would like. Otherwise, we'll stay online for another 5 minutes or so. Gustaf, if that's okay with you. If anybody has any other questions or comments they'd like to raise, but at this point in time, I'll switch off the recording. And thank you again for attending. Please don't forget to catch a recording that will be on our website. And then if you have any comments or questions directly for Gustaf, we did share his details in the chat. If you missed that, then just reach out to us, info@tvdmconsultants.com, and we'll put you in touch with Gustaf directly as well. Thank you so much.